Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on my bedroom space. So if you guys missed the first video that I made for this space, we kind of went over the whole entire layout of the room, things that I wanted to change, some DIYs I want to do, and also the fact that I want to do this project for like $30 or less. So if you want to see more specifics on all of that, I will have that linked down below. But today we are actually going to be getting started. And to get started, we're going to start with the wall behind me. We're actually going to give it a little bit of a paint refresh. It's a little bit hard to show because the window is on this wall, but it's sort of a dark gray color, and I sort of want to bring in a little bit more warmth and also incorporate my favorite color. So we'll be doing that today. I'll also be doing the end table as well as the front on our fabric drawers. I'm hoping to find a really cost-effective, easy way to just sort of change those up a little bit. But first things first, we have to move everything out of here so we can paint. Okay, wall is all prepped. Thankfully, this is just one wall. It's completely smooth, so it's gonna be super easy to just repaint over. So this is the paint that I brought from downstairs. If you guys watched that first video, I wanted to reuse some paint that we already had, and we recently just redid our bathroom. That color in there on the bottom is called At Ease Soldier. Technically, we started with a color called Evergreen Fog, also by Sherwin-Williams, but it was a little bit too cool toned. So basically, if you go back into the store and you show them the color that you more so want to go for, they will sort of remix it and sort of match the color as best as possible. So it's very close to At Ease Soldier. It's a little bit different because of the undertone, but the color of this is absolutely stunning. I think it's going to bring in a lot of depth to this wall and really warm it up a little bit. And with gray, it's just such a dull color. There's really no color in it at all, so I'm just excited to bring in a little bit more. And it's also going to tie in with the rest of the elements that I want to bring into this room later on. Also, let me know in the comments below some of the colors that you have put in your own room. When I was taking off this plate on the outlet cover, the blue that used to be on here was sort of peeking through. I want to say before that or after that, I had like a bright like fluorescent purple, and then I also had the turquoise, and then I had like a green border that went all the way around. It was a little bit crazy. Obviously my style has changed, but it just made me curious because there's probably so many layers of paint on this wall from just all the different coats of paint that I've done on it. So sticking with that wall, I want to continue sort of blocking out the color in that area, specifically the fabric drawers. I have some yellow ones as well as some gray ones, and we're completely eliminating the yellow, making everything very neutral. But if you guys watched my first video, my first initial idea was to sort of make a drawer front and cover it in burlap. We are going to make a drawer front, but I don't have any burlap, so we're gonna keep on using what we have. And I ended up finding this piece of fabric in my stash. It's really pretty. It's just this very simple pinstripe with like a taupey gray stripe on it. Super pretty. I think it's going to look so good, and at least a lot better than the yellow and the gray. So just to sort of illustrate what I'm talking about, this is the drawer, and I took a cardboard box and I cut out pieces of cardboard that would perfectly cover this up. I did make them a little bit small, so I am going to sort of put some string around the outside just to expand it a little bit, just to make sure that we don't have any color peeking through. And then I made a little arrow, that way I know which way it goes, because it's not exactly the same both ways, if that makes sense. So that's just a really good tip. And essentially I'm just going to use some hot glue. That's the easiest way to do this in my opinion. And I'm going to cut a piece of fabric so that we have a little bit extra on each side, about an inch, maybe 2 inches, somewhere in there. And then I'll just wrap it around the front, sort of like upholstery, and it'll be covered. And then I'm going to use some string to make some sort of handle. Not sure how that's going to work. I'm going to somehow twist some strings together to make like a woven detail instead of the whole entire thing being woven. So in a perfect world, I would cover the whole entire thing in this fabric, but first of all, I don't have enough. Second of all, we have to be a little bit careful, because when you start adding layers to the drawer, it may not fit into the storage as well as it used to. So you just have to think about that. So I thought just doing the front would probably be the best idea. When you're doing this similar to upholstery, you want to start with one end and then pull on the opposite end just to make sure it's nice and tight. And also it's going to give you that really finished, very professional look. Next up, after getting our actual fronts done, I did actually find this sort of tan fabric rather than using the string and sort of making like a woven material. So basically this is a no-sew project. I have the hot glue gun out, and you can definitely do this with a hot glue gun. You can use a sewing machine if you're feeling advanced, but basically I am just gonna sort of fold this over a few times. That way it has some really good structure to it. And I'm basically just gonna make like a little loop like this and then stick it to onto the top. And then that's when we're going to attach it to the actual drawers themselves. I didn't come up with a better way of attaching it to these drawers rather than just hot gluing it. I figure it'll be fine. The likelihood of me getting rid of these in the future is pretty low. So I think this is going to be the best bet. And so far I love how they look. I feel like it's super simple, it's classy, and again, it's just gonna give us a nice neutral slate. So the last and final project we're going to be doing for this part of this episode is actually refinishing this end table. My dog is down here, so she loves attention. So if you guys watched my first video where I sort of went through the whole entire process, the aesthetic, and some of the things that I purchased, this was one of them. So I found this on Marketplace for $10. And if you guys saw my old end table that's near my bed, there really is no storage. It's really short and it's very farmhouse style in general. I wanted to elevate it a little bit and I wanted to look more antique style. I want to bring a lot more character. However, this redwood sort of stain is not doing it for me. I don't mind the handles. I'm probably going to keep them this way, but I'm hoping that if I sand this down, I can restain it to something a little bit more neutral, something a little different that's going to complement all of the wood stain that we have going on in the whole entire room. So I'm gonna grab my sander and I'm gonna cross my fingers that this sands down really well. So I took out the drawers. Oh wait, so it looks like maybe just the drawer fronts and the top are real wood. As I was moving this, I sort of saw that some of this is peeling off and I think this is just a veneer. I am gonna try to lightly sand it, see what it does, but I am gonna start with this top. This just feels so much sturdier. This has to be wood. This looks less like wood, but I'd kind of be surprised if it was. I'm gonna start with an 80 grit, see what we find. If not, the stain that I have is a gel stain. What I can do is give it a light sand and just put the gel stain over it. I think that might be okay. It might make my life a little bit easier. Yeah, so let's check this out and see what we're working with. It is now a few days later and I got everything sanded. I got whatever coating off from this cabinet. I got it down to the barest bones that I possibly could. And this is what we are left with. So we are kind of discussing material of this cabinet. That's the only thing about getting things off of Marketplace. I feel like the material that you end up with is so up in the air. You're always hoping for solid wood or something like that. That's probably the most ideal when it comes to redoing furniture exactly how you want it to look. Once I got down to this state of our end table, I realized that I'm pretty sure this is either made out of like MDF, particle board, or maybe it's a combination of the two. Like this front frame that sort of goes around the drawers and the drawers are both a different material. They both feel a little bit different. Thankfully, I did a little bit of research and you can still stain MDF and particle board. It's still wood, it just doesn't have that sort of lineal grain to it, if that makes sense. So it doesn't have all the veining of real wood. But thankfully, I was going to use this product in general just because that was what I had on hand. But the internet says that you can use gel stain on MDF and particle board. So it should be able to absorb really well. I'm going to be using the gel stain color Provincial by Varathane. I feel like this gives a good amount of richness and it's going to complement the other oak tones that we have going on in the room. So I think I'm just gonna do one coat of that, sort of see how it goes. I'm going to use a paintbrush to sort of try to get those wood grains and just sort of create them myself. But before that, I do want to add a little bit of distressing to make this feel a little bit more of like a vintage piece. So I am going to just find some tools, whatever we have laying around, and just sort of make some dents, make some scratches. So I'm going to dig around, see what we can find, and I'm really hoping that this project goes smoothly. test it out on this side first, the side that you don't really see that's gonna be up against the bed. That way if we run into anything, it at least isn't, you know, what you're gonna see every day. This is gonna work, you guys. Now that this project is completely done, let's talk about some of the things that I ran into, things that I learned while doing this whole process. So overall, I love the color of it. For some reason on camera, it's showing up a little bit more red, kind of how it used to be, but it's definitely more brown and doesn't have that red undertone anymore. As I mentioned, this end table is not made out of solid wood. It's made out of some sort of particle board, MDF, something like that. So it doesn't have that beautiful wood grain. I feel like the gel stain gave it a little bit of that because it's supposed to work on non-wood surfaces. But after I finished it and we put the clear coat on and everything, it's nice and smooth, and I think it's really going to be nice. I think it looks really nice. So if you don't like this look and you have a similar situation, whether it be a dresser or another end table or something like that, maybe consider painting it. Maybe that would give you a much cleaner finish. But because I wanted to match our headboard that we're going to make next episode, I think that doing the gel stain was definitely the best move. So overall, pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it's going to bring a lot of warmth into this space. Right now I have just like a white end table, and this is quite a bit bigger than the one that I have in there. So I'm excited to see how it's going to look in the space, and again, just like coordinate with all of the other tones that we're going to be bringing in. So let's go ahead and move this inside, see what it looks like in our space, and we'll discuss a little bit about what I want to accomplish in next episode. Guys, look at the size difference. This one is definitely gonna be a lot more substantial and hold a lot more. Alright you guys, that is going to wrap up episode 1 of my bedroom makeover on a budget. We did a bunch of things in this room that really changed the feel of the space. My favorite project of today definitely has to be the end table. I love the moodiness. I love the rich tone in here. This room is very light and bright, especially at this time of day, so I feel like the moodiness, I love it. And of course, I love the drawers and I love the wall that we painted. We're slowly starting to get rid of all of the yellow and just slowly bring everything back into a more neutral, calming space. For the next episode, there are quite a few things that I want to tackle. We're going to be moving around some furniture a little bit, which is something that I actually haven't talked about yet because one of you guys actually gave me the idea and I've sort of been playing with it in my head and I feel like it's gonna work. We're also going to be doing the DIY headboard that's going to be the same color as the end table. It's going to be a very cohesive, moody look. We need to do a lamp DIY as well as some paintings. I really need to sort of update those into some really classic, intricate, very antique feeling pieces. But anyway, I hope you guys got a bunch of inspiration and a lot of ideas to transform your own space for not much money. Just the small things, just the little furniture flips that you do can make a really big impact on your space and you can definitely do it yourself. I am so happy with where we're headed. But that's the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for spending some time with me on my channel today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, you guys.